Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
I've mentioned before that I used to drive a tow truck when I was in college. And driving a tow truck is an interesting thing to do. The people you encounter, the cars you encounter, oftentimes accidents you encounter. But if you run a tow truck company, any place where there might be military personnel about, you need to be aware of the fact that military people often have special protections, especially when it comes to, vehicles that might be getting towed. And as an attorney, I can tell you that there's often legal notices where a person filing a document with the court has got to tell the court yes or no whether this person's in the military, or if you don't know, you got to say. And they do that because of the special protections that these people have, and it's completely understandable they've got these protections. So here's a story from Fox 5 San Diego. Rhea Cauley wrote this. Towing company settles allegations that it auctioned off a Navy lieutenant's car during deployment. So a South Bay towing company has agreed to settle allegations that it auctioned a car owned by a U.S. Navy lieutenant while he was deployed at sea. Before leaving for deployment in November 2022, the U.S. Navy lieutenant placed personal items in his 2011 Mazda 6 and parked the car at a friend's house. The Chula Vista Police Department impounded the car because its registration was expired, according to the complaint. The car was then towed to an auto center in Chula Vista. 2 months later, the auto center sold the car at an auction through its agent without the authorization of a court order, which would be required by the Service Member Civil Relief Act. That's the SCRA. The owner of the car was deployed at sea aboard the USS Bunker Hill at the time. So now I'm got to make sure this is clear. It says a South Bay towing company, but then it references an auto center, and I'm guessing that the two are related in some way. When I drove a tow truck for a gas station. And obviously a tow truck, and a gas station, back then, that made a lot of sense. Nowadays, a lot of auto places have got their own tow trucks, but whoever auctioned the vehicle off has issues, and whoever towed the vehicle may or may not have issues. But if they're one and the same, yeah, they've got issues. In March of 2023, the U.S. Navy lieutenant returned home to discover his car had been towed and sold. So the auto center agreed to settle the allegations. Under the settlement agreement, the company is ordered to implement new policies to prevent future violations of the SCRA. So the U.S. Attorney's Office got involved in this because they want to make sure that this type of stuff doesn't happen. And they said, as part of a settlement, so we're not going to prosecute you for something, you've got to agree to put in some kind of, guidelines so this doesn't happen again. Now, meanwhile, the guy whose car was auctioned will receive $7,500 in damages, and then the company will have to pay a $2,000 civil penalty. Now, you might go $7,500 in damages. Well, it was a 2011 Mazda 6. Don't know how much that's worth. And it says that he had some personal items in there, but we don't know how much that was worth either. But apparently, as a settlement, it means that the guy agreed to this. So the SCRA is a federal law that protects military members and their families while they are actively serving. Members of our armed forces should not have to worry about their cars being auctioned off while they're deployed on missions defending our freedoms, liberties, and rights, said an assistant attorney. This settlement should send a strong message to other towing companies that they should not take advantage of our service members while they are keeping Americans safe. And here's the thing. The towing company probably did not stop to think this vehicle could belong to a service member. It's something that seems like a high probability situation. And I've talked to other people who said that, they've worked near military bases. And whenever you're in a town like that that's near a military base, you're aware of the fact that there's this military culture around you. And so a lot of the people around you might be service members. The Justice Department has obtained more than $481 million in monetary relief for more than 147,000 service members through the SCRA since 2011. So think about that. I understand that's 14 years, right? But 147,000 service members have had to turn to the Justice Department and say, hey, somebody did something to me while I was serving. And, think about this, that, you're in the service and you get called and they say, we need you. Come on, we're going out there to do something. And the last thing you should be worried about is my stuff okay at home? And so the funny part is that I practice law in Michigan. I've been an attorney here for 34 years in Michigan. And I remember when I first started seeing all of the legal pleadings and documents that get filed with the court. And so when you go to law school, you're exposed to some of that. But when you start filing lawsuits on your own as an attorney, you start seeing all kinds of stuff because you're reading these forms, you're filling them out, you're whatever. So I can tell you that when you file to get a default, you sued somebody, they haven't answered or otherwise responded. And you're asking the court to enter a default. The number 3 allegation, and this is on a pre-printed form, that you must fill out is a statement that says it is unknown whether the defaulted party is in the military service. And there's a checkbox. Or you can check the box that says the defaulted party is not in the military service. Or you can check the box that says the defaulted party is in the military, but there has been notice of pendency of the action and adequate time and opportunity to appear and defend has been provided. Attached is a waiver of rights and protections provided under the Service Members Civil Relief Act. Facts upon which this conclusion is based are, and you got to fill this out. But there's this paragraph that makes sure that before you submit a default application to the court, that you have been put on notice of the idea that this person, if they are a service member in military service, you've got to take different steps. So if they're not, then you're fine. But that document has that language there. So no one can come up and go, I forgot about that. I'm in Michigan. I mean, we've got some service members here, but there's I've not encountered that in my own practice. But every single default application, and I filled out a few of these, has that language there. So you can't say, who's heard of that? Oh, the Service Members Civil Relief Act? It's right on that document you signed, counselor. Meanwhile, for instance, if you file a small claims court affidavit and claim, and I grabbed just 2 at random here. Small claims court affidavit and claim, paragraph 12. And again, check boxes. You can check the boxes, I do not know whether the defendant is in the military service, or the box that says the defendant is not in the military service, if you know that for a fact, or the defendant is in the military service. And again, they're asking you specifically, answer this question about whether or not this person is in the military service. Yes, no, or you don't know. And again, so if you go into court and the other side doesn't show up and it's a small claims action, and one of the reasons I wanted to put this in here is, as you might know, small claims actions are usually filed by non-attorneys. You don't need an attorney for a small claims action. And so they put that in there so that when somebody goes to small claims court who's not an attorney and might not know about this law, they have to check one of those boxes. And I guarantee you that every single day, somebody walks up the counter of the clerk and says, give me a small claims form. And they're filling that out and they go, what? Military service? Where did that come from? Well, this is where it came from. It came from people who would go to court against somebody and not inform the court, oh, by the way, this person's in the service and they're out on a ship at sea. So they're not going to be here to defend themselves in a small claims action, or maybe that explains why they're being defaulted in a regular civil action. That law is there, and you need to be aware of it, especially if you run a company that tows vehicles. Especially if you tow vehicles and occasionally go, the owner hasn't claimed it, we're going to auction the vehicle off. And you send out these notices to the last known address and go, gee, we never got a response. I wonder why. And so, the fact that this law exists, this is a good law, and it exists for a reason. And like I said, I have the utmost respect for anybody who's put on a uniform for any branch of our service and served our country. Absolutely. And do they need special laws? Yes, they do. And this is a good law. So the Service Members Civil Relief Act protects people in the military from certain kinds of legal actions. It's not saying you can't ever sue them or you can't ever tow their car, but they've got to have an opportunity to defend it, and you can't use against them that, oh, they're not here. I guess I can default them then. Well, no, you got to fill that form out. It says whether or not you know if they're in the military, which means that you've got to do some research, to protect yourself. Because if you check that box because they're not in the military, and it comes back later they are, the Justice Department of the federal government might come looking for you and have a little talk with you. So this case settled. Hopefully the guy's happy with the settlement. From Fox 5 San Diego, Rhea Cauley wrote this. Towing company settles allegations that it auctioned a Navy lieutenant's car during deployment. Questions or comments? Put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. Reading is one form of escape. Running for your life is another.